Well, joining us now, one of the authors of today's report, the chair of the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, Professor Terence Stephenson, Terry Jones from the Food and Drink Federation, the chef and food writer, Yotam Ottolenghi, and the blogger and model, Kallie Thorpe. Kallie, it's a delicate and brutal question. Are you obese?
Yes, medically I would be deemed as obese by a doctor.
What do you think of yourself, though?
I've been battling dieting for a long time, but I've come to the conclusion that it's better to love yourself as you are and then work on being healthy and maintaining a positive and happy self-worth. That's what I think is important. And I've been talking about that by writing a blog, so that's what...
So we can classify you as kind of bigger than you perhaps want to be medically, but happy. And that's pretty critical.
Yeah.
Lovely. We'll come back to that. Now, Professor, what is obesity? I mean, how big do you have to be obese?
Well, obesity is defined by something called the body mass index. Essentially, you take a person's weight, divide it by their height, and we get a number. And if that number is above 25, you're overweight. If it's above 30, you're obese. What really matters is the risk that brings to you. We have about 1 million people with diabetes in the UK now, and we think we have another 850,000 undiagnosed diabetics. Biggest risk factor for diabetes in adulthood is being overweight or obese.
Do those health risks alarm you?
Yes, but recently I just had to pop into the hospital and the doctors, and I have normal blood pressure, I'm not pre-diabetic, I'm healthy, I eat organic foods and I exercise. I feel like the reason why I've put on weight over the years is the fact that I've been sort of bullied and that you get told that you're ugly and that you need to lose weight, and yo-yo dieting has made me gain more weight in the long run. And if we were sort of focusing on education, it's better to be healthy than to be...
And happy. And I want to stress this happy bit because, you see, let us suppose Kallie, under some ghastly regime, gets down to 8 stone or somewhere. But she could be grimly unhappy, frightfully depressed, psychologically ill. I'm not saying that she would be, but let's say that she might be. There's a possibility that her psychological condition would be much worse than her physical condition as she is now.
So we're not really advocating that for Kallie. What we're saying, what the people who come to me, I've been at my hospital from 8 o'clock this morning, I've just come from there now, 800 patients, many there because of the effects of overeating. What they say to me is, we would like some help with our problem. We want to be helped to swim with the tide, not against the current. And I am no different from anyone. I find it incredibly difficult to resist the pressures in modern society to eat too much than is good for me.
What about gastric bypasses and their availability? Now, at the moment, there's a cut-off at 16, which seems a pretty arbitrary age.
Our report says that for a small group of people who are very obese, much more overweight than Kallie, whose lives are at imminent risk, bariatric surgery has been proven to be life-saving. And
that could be somebody of 12, 13, 14?
Well, to me, being 15 years and 364 days or being 16 in 1 day is a nonsense. It's if the expert team advising that person and their family think it's the best thing for them and will be life-saving, then it's the right thing for them.
Now, as I said at the top of the programme, the actions that the professor and his group are demanding from the government is a tax on fizzy drinks. You're from the Food and Drink Federation, and indeed none of the high-calorie stuff to be advertised before the 9 o'clock watershed.
Well, I don't think anyone would disagree with Terence that we need to help people, that we need to find ways to empower consumers to make appropriate and healthy choices. And that's what the industry's invested in the last 10 years. We've reformulated much loved products so that they're lower in saturated fat and salt and increasingly energy. We've created new, healthier versions of products. We've invested in clear front-of-pack nutritional labelling, and the industry...
But you're still selling some awful stuff. I mean, very fatty potato chips. I mean, I know there are low-fat ones, but, you know, still the mainstream is fatty. And then, of course, the fizzy drinks. I mean, the colas.
But John, this is about trying to empower those consumers to make those healthy choices. So
why make the choice? Why not simply...
But those products are there, but similarly, I mean, we've talked a lot today about...
But wouldn't you love it if these were taxed out of existence? Then you could wallow in your low-carb products that you're so thrilled to sell.
We talked a lot today about soft drinks. Now, over 60% of the soft drinks that are on the market today are already low low calorie, and the industry's made a concerted effort to invest in low calorie sweetener technology to create products which taste like the products that they love.
Now, Kallie, are you a consumer?
Yeah, I just don't agree with that you're saying that you're putting in like sweeteners instead of sugar. They're equally as bad for you, and we should be discouraging that. We should be talking about drinking water. And it's probably, people are probably watching this thinking, how can you say that when you're overweight? But I think you shouldn't, it should be, if we're going to tax anybody, it should be the retailers and not the consumers. Education needs to start from the bottom, and encouraging sweeteners is not the way forward.
But within the portfolio of soft drinks that I'm talking about, we've got huge increases in water and fruit juices and other products. But the industry's invested in all of this activity to play its full part in public health. And I suppose the disappointing thing for us today, looking at Terence's report, is it kind of looks like a collection of recycled ideas from lots of other places. There's not a lot of evidence to back up a lot of the calls in there.
Well, I'll come back to him on that in just a moment. But I want to bring you in, Yotam Ottolenghi, because you might perhaps respond to the educational point that Kallie made.
Yeah, I tend to think that I'm not sure whether taxing will help or not, but I think the main problem is that the food is too cheap, not only cheap in price, but cheap in people's minds. So there is not enough respect to food, and people are not educated well enough to understand how important food is for them. So even if you price things, I don't think that the government should interfere too much in what people decide to consume or not. I think even if you price something out of people's reach, they'll still find a way to have it if they really want it. It's all about trying to understand what people want to eat and why they want to eat it. I think if people really are aware of what's on their table, they'll make wise choices in the long term, not immediately.
But the trouble is, you are high-end, and really, for people to enjoy what you provide, I'm not talking about what we could cook that you advise us to cook, but what you actually sell, they need money.
Yes, I don't think that.
And that's high quality.
My average customer is not the average earner, so I probably won't be able. Most people won't come to my restaurant, but I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that people make wiser choices or more healthy choices on a lower budget. I mean, to buy a ready-made meal is as cheap as buying some potatoes and maybe some other vegetables and eating them, and a much healthier choice. So it's not only about availability, it's much more about choosing healthy ways to eat, particularly with vegetables.
Well, the difficulty surely is that you are dealing with people who seem to be beyond making choices. They're kind of compulsive. Would that be right?
They're just like me and you. They find that these things are very tempting, and lots of advertising and marketing and the way things are placed in aisles of supermarket nudges us towards buying these things. Chocolate bars placed at the checkout when you get there with your toddler, nudging us all. And the evidence is unequivocal. We, as a population, are the fattest population in Europe, and we need to do something about this now.
And what about your response to Terry's point about the whole point that you've recycled a whole lot of old ideas and throw them out into the public domain again?
Well, old ideas aren't necessarily bad ideas, but more importantly, I think the mistake we've been making is expecting the food industry to be our health conscience. They exist to make food and sell them and make a profit, and I have no problem with that. In our report, we've latched onto this tax, but there are 10 recommendations, some of which are around education, some of which are around standards for food in hospitals, just like in schools, some are around having academies having those food standards. So there's a big raft of measures there, of which taxing fizzy drinks is potentially important, but only one.
But
well,
there was a great opportunity
sorry. There's something I want to put to you, and that is, you've kind of dismissed this report. And does that mean, therefore, that your federation will basically ignore it and carry on as is? Or are you actually going to change the kind of choices people can make by what you offer?
We've been on a really long journey around changing products already. What I was going to say is that it was a real shame that, that when the Academy launched this inquiry, they said they'd leave no stone unturned. And so it felt like a great opportunity to change the dialogue where you've got the medical workforce and the food industry, and a grown-up debate about how the two could really work together to tackle what we recognise as a really big problem. And the report failed to do that. As I said, it recycled a lot of old ideas, and it didn't really, I think, get to the nub of the issue, which was about how that those two communities could work together to really change behaviour and lead to really long-term better public health outcomes.
Well, viewers will be able to make their own judgment from the discussion we've just had. And Yotam Ottolenghi, you're going to stay with it, but thank you, the other three, very, very much, Professor, particularly for the report. And now, rather than, what we've become, what are we eating?